Welcome Taurus to your in-depth monthly forecast for January 2026. I'm going to share some of the standout themes of the month to begin with, then on screen the event chart as the new year dawns. That provides an influential backdrop for the whole of January. I'll then go through all the influences in detail, frame by frame, which you can relate to in terms of your ascendant, sun or the moon. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundell and a very warm welcome. All your views, comments, likes and interactions are truly appreciated. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, I have shared that over 50% of people who regularly watch these videos are not subscribers. If that's you, please do so now. Please also click or tap the bell notification symbol and help the channel to continue to thrive. If you've yet to watch your year 2026 video, please see the link beneath this one. If you've yet to order your personal forecast for the year ahead, you can do so and you'll get 12 full months from when you order it if you order in January. If you order it in December 2025, you'll get the rest of that year 3 and the whole of the following 12 months. You'll also get your life roadmap report, which is truly influential in terms of understanding our life journey. But at the checkout, if you apply the code ASTRO26, you'll get 50% off. Now your sign is ruled by Venus, and Venus is going to be incredibly influential right throughout this month. But particularly if you make a note of the 6th of January, when she is in a cazimi with the sun, totally unified, but also on the 8th, she's in a wonderfully intense but passionate embrace with Mars. So that's intriguing. As ever, we do have two lunations. The first, the full moon, is early on the 3rd, but just before that a very tender change goes on when Chiron, which has been retracing its steps since July, goes direct in a very sensitive part of your scope. That's truly significant, which I will share. Now, at the very beginning of January, there's a sense of an anticipation about broadening your horizons, travel, movement, some kind of breaking free of a situation which has held you back for too long. But as the month goes on, it's going to become much more about your connection to the wider world. And that really brings your professional situation sharply into focus. So on the screen now, you can see the event chart, and there's Venus very close to the sun. Now in traditional astrology, they would say that that's combust, therefore the sun is overpowering the energy of Venus. Modern astrology would say that's a conjunction, which becomes exact on the 6th, as I mentioned before. But I think that's very, very strong, because if you think about it, the charm, the sultry charm that you possess, is amplified by the enthusiasm that the sun in the 9th house brings, because at each time as you enter into a new year, the sun is in your sister sign of Capricorn. Earth energy wants to see tangible outcomes, but the 9th house can be about higher education, it can be about movement, and it can be about liberation. And because Mars is in the mix as well, and Mars and Venus are going to be very close to the sun through the first 2/3 of this month, I feel that if you have been finding it a little bit difficult to find that extra bit of drive to push through on something that does represent a big shift in your situation, you're much more likely to find it as 2026 begins. But we also need to be mindful of Mercury. Mercury is about communication, but it also can be about business. And for you, it's in the part of your situation to do with shared finances or long-term planning. And that's squaring off with Neptune and Saturn at the start of this new year. And they're in the part of your chart to do with your future planning, your highest hopes, and also your friendships. If there are some alliances which aren't working quite as well as you would like, I think that cluster of energy in the sign of Capricorn is really pushing you to get in touch with the part of your nature that needs to be a free spirit. And if we think about it, over the last 7 years, Uranus has pushed you to experiment and do things that in the past you may not have done. And before that, from 2008 through to November 2014, Pluto was also shifting a lot of things in your life. And even though you do have a reputation for liking continuity and stability, I think this chart is saying to me, it's time to bring in new and fresh approaches, not just in January, but potentially throughout the year. So that's really the big picture. You also have the moon in the second house of your situation, which can be about foundations, your values, everyday money, but is in a very strong link with Pluto at the start of the year, and that's in your sector of success. So if things feel right that you're trying different and where you're going to be more experimental, I would say that's a strong prompt to follow your instincts and really push forwards. Now, I mentioned in my introduction that there is going to be some very important changes at the start of the month. And one of them, ironically, is that Mercury leaves that 8th house later on the 1st and arrives to join with the other 3 players in Capricorn. If there is something that needs some thinking about, planning, or perhaps using technology to work with, Mercury moving into the 9th house will just spark you up, and it won't immediately escape from the check-in energy of Saturn and Neptune. But sure enough, as the month goes on, it is going to give you a chance to think about things in a fresh way, make connections to people outside your normal situation, and that knowledge and information you glean can be very valuable to you. But the other influence that's very powerful early on is that Chiron, the so-called wounded healer, which has been working its way through a very tender part of your chart since the early part of 2019, has been in retrograde since July for 5 months, which is an annual event, rewound 5 degrees. If there have been times when you've been thinking very, very carefully about the more psychological, emotional, or spiritual dimension of your life, it wouldn't be a surprise. But I think all this energy gushing into Capricorn can put you in a much more progressive frame of mind, and Chiron going direct will help. Now on the 3rd we have the full moon in Cancer. For you that's house 3, how we think, quick connections, can be short journeys, our relationships with people in our everyday world, and even siblings. But 3rd house energy, because it's speedy, in an opposition with the 9th house energy, which is about the big picture, more philosophical, it may mean over the following 2 weeks there's going to be some intense discussions. And because the moon goes opposite Mars, which is very close to the position of the sun in Capricorn, don't jump to any conclusions. There may be something you encounter where you feel resistance, or someone doesn't seem to be very clear in what they're saying, and it could see you get quite exasperated. Try to keep an even keel. So the information you initially hear may require sifting and thinking through, but don't get too caught up in other people's agendas. Now as the month goes on, we are going to see a glorious set of 4 Cazimis, and the first on the 6th involves your ruler Venus. Now that's when the sun and the other planetary player are totally unified, and the energy, the radiance, the magnificence of the sun amplifies the brilliance of the other planet. Don't underestimate how attractive and alluring you can be to others, particularly if you've got something to say, an idea, a philosophy to share, or if you're traveling somewhere, you'll be able to immerse yourself in the culture, the food, and the local customs in a very enriching way. But it could lead to a spark of attraction to someone who's further afield from you, or who's different from you in some kind of way. And things can get even hotter on that score when on the 8th, Venus and Mars forge a very intense conjunction themselves. Now on the 9th, it's Mars's turn to go into the Cazimi with the Sun. Now the Sun here is interesting because Mars in Capricorn is exalted and therefore possesses extra confidence, which balances the more cautionary energy of the sign of Capricorn. And you may find that if you have been a little bit unsure whether you should really go for it, whether you should twist or stick, if you're up for twisting, the extra confidence that this combination can give you can be awesome. But just know, right through those first 3 weeks of this new year, the combination of the Sun, Venus and Mars could see you having some very interesting and intriguing conversations, particularly if you are someone who tells or teaches or trains people in some way. You can be very much in vogue. People can be drawn to your message, not just the content of your message, but the tone of the way you deliver it. And Taurus people have a wonderful way of sharing messages. Your throat gives you a certain sensual charm that no other zodiac sign can match. So just know that that's going to be turned up brightly if you are wanting to connect, educate, move around. Your vibe is really going to be flamboyant, and that's exciting. Now, if you can't get away from it all because you have young kids or a busy work schedule which is a bit more confining, there may be other things that you can do early in this month which can bring a sense of change and excitement to your world. Now, one of the things you may consider is learning a foreign language. It could be how to read music, to play an instrument. It may be go into an adult evening class and engage in a brand new hobby which really can open up your world in an exciting way. But as those energies in the sign of Capricorn make progress, they actually come into a very positive alliance with Saturn and Neptune. And if you recall, when Mars, followed by the Sun and then Venus, all moved into the sign of Capricorn, they all went through a period of challenge. But you can shrug that off as this month goes by, because they're all going to move into a very solid connection to Saturn, Neptune and Uranus. And if there are friends that you are aligning to, that you have similar credo, you enjoy getting together with, doing things more spontaneously with, those relationships can get a lot stronger. So I think looking at things overall, for a sign that has a real appreciation of the continuities of life, you could find yourself bolder, a bit more thrusting and more daring as this month goes on, and that can really give you a true spring in your step. Now, by the 18th we have the new moon, and it's a new moon that has Mercury and Mars very close together. Your message can be amplified even more, and you can share your ideas with absolute conviction and confidence, and people will become much more aware of what you have to offer. But the 20th sees the Sun and Mercury step into the sign of Aquarius, and that is for you the sector of success, where Pluto is, and they're going to be meeting first of all together exactly on the 21st in a Mercury cazimi, and then we have a Pluto cazimi on the 23rd as Mars moves into Aquarius too. So some of the things that you could be yearning for early on in this month, Taurus, may not necessarily just be to do with travelling for fun, social or enjoyment reasons. It could be to do with your professional world. And if you are craving something that's more challenging, the last 10 days of this month really give you an awesome opportunity to up your vibration, but also your profile. And if you do want to gain more followers, impress an important colleague or line manager or boss or potential contractor or so on by doing a very powerful presentation, your chances of doing that are enhanced massively towards the end of January. But the key to this is having the confidence to try something different, to break free of what has perhaps been quite regular and set and formulaic for you, and have a little bit of belief that a change can be as good as a rest. But then if you do want to just be much more self-assured when it comes to your message, your ideas, your self-worth, and taking a leadership role, I think that's entirely possible for you as this month draws to a close. A time when Neptune will return back to the sign of Aries. Now he returns. Now that's intriguing because he's going to be followed by Saturn on the 14th of February, and the 12th house is for you an echo of that Chiron energy, that more inner vibration. So that's saying to you, Neptune, make sure you listen to your inner voice. It won't let you down, even if you are trying some ambitious and thrusting and daring moves this month. But certainly as the month comes to a close, know that if you are wanting to garner much more acclaim, recognition and success, you really have the most fantastic celestial opportunity, to be honest, that I can remember for you for a very long time indeed. Wishing you all the best for January. If you've yet to order your personal forecast for the year ahead, you can do so, and you'll get 12 full months from when you order it if you order in January. If you order it in December 2025, you'll get the rest of that year 3 and the whole of the following 12 months. You'll also get your life roadmap report, which is truly influential in terms of understanding our life journey. But at the checkout, if you apply the code ASTRO26, you'll get 50% off. All the best and goodbye.